Hello, friends. Good afternoon. Today we will discuss an international topic which pertains to the press conference of the Ukrainian president, Mr. Vladimir Zelensky, when he was invited by the United States of America, Trump administration, on 1st of March this month, 2025. The things which would have been discussed, debated behind doors. It was perhaps premeditated by the American administration, Trump administration, that such things which needs to be discussed behind the doors because it has national, international repercussions have been discussed before the press and before the whole world. That press conference, which took place on 1st of March this month, amongst the President of United States, Trump, then the President of Ukraine, Mr. Zelensky, Volodymyr Zelensky, and the Vice President of the United States of America, Mr. Vance. And before these three persons, there was huge selective press men and women in the Oval Office of White House, and we have all watched live that what happened on that day, how the Trump administration, how the President Trump and his companion, Mr. Vance, Vice President of United States, has tried to overpower the President of Ukraine, Mr. Zelensky, by words, and how they both have tried to ambush the President of the Ukraine, that it was visible that Mr. Zelensky was spellbound on the acts of the President of USA, Mr. Trump, and Vice President, Mr. J.D. Vance. Whole world has witnessed this. The basic point which was involved in that discussion and why Mr. Zelensky was invited to the United States, the reason for that was Trump wanted to stop war between the Russia and the Ukraine, and for that Trump was having some understanding, perhaps with the Russian president, and perhaps his emphasis inwardly was on the rare earth minerals which are available in abundance in Ukraine. USA was eyeing on that subject, on the subject of minerals. They wanted to have certain agreement with the Ukrainian president, but this was not the way to deal with Ukrainian President Mr. Zelensky. I tell you very clearly that Mr. Zelensky was ready to execute that agreement with the United States, but his only condition was that he must have some security guarantee that after the war is stopped between Russia and USA, I'm sorry, between Russia and the Ukraine, there will be no escalation. Russia will not breach that agreement of stopping the war. He narrated his own experiences in the past that many times we had the Ukrainians agreements, ceasefire agreements with the Russia, but Russia breached blatantly those agreements, defied those agreements, and President Zelensky doesn't now want to experience such breaches. Therefore, the point the Zelensky Ukrainian president raised was relevant point for consideration by the United States. That if United States enters into an agreement on rare earth minerals, both the parties execute that agreement, which was perhaps the core of the agreement to stop war between Russia and the Ukraine. And thereafter, after the execution of the agreement with USA, war stops, say for example, and after some times, again Russia wages a war against Ukraine, then what is the guarantee, security guarantee for such waging of wars by the Russians after the execution of the agreement on rare earth minerals between Ukraine and the United States Trump administration? The point is relevant for consideration. Why one nation will enter into an agreement which has no relevance at all if the aggressor Russia again wages a war after stopping the war, after the execution of the agreement? Then such agreement has no relevance. Rather, this relevance, there is relevance for the United States that he will dig those minerals. But if war is waged again after the agreement, then what, it would have no relevance for the Ukrainians. There would be no peace. Again, they have to meet the same tragic fate which they are facing for the last 3 years now. So the thought on the part of the Zelensky is correct and was correct, that he will execute such agreements only if the United States provide security guarantee to Ukrainian people, but perhaps this talk between the Ukrainian president and the United States is failed only on the point of security guarantee. And this was the reason perhaps that it offended the Trump, and it was further escalated when both the heads of the state were conversating, and the vice president, who was having no business to intervene, he intervened and offended the talk, offended the Zelensky, and he has to resist. And he rightly resisted what Mr. Trump said and what Vance said. Because if the Zelensky has not resisted this talk, this conversation, this offensive conversation by Trump and his vice president, Mr. Vance, perhaps it would have no far-reaching consequences as we are witnessing today on the European side. Because it is seen that Mr. Trump has not only humiliated the Ukrainian president, who is a president of the sovereign nation, like Mr. Trump, though Mr. Trump is powerful, he is president of a country who is superpower, no doubt in it. But such superpowers should respect the powers, the nations who are less powerful than the United States. Superpowers cannot intrude into the sovereignty of the less powerful nations like Ukraine, like India, like Sri Lanka, or any other less powerful nation on the globe. Definitely, certainly, this is not the way to deal with the heads of the states. Mr. Trump disrespected, humiliated many others also. Macron, he held his hand and corrected him when Both were facing the press conference in Oval Office. Likewise, other Jordanian king, the Prime Minister of United Kingdom, he almost, Mr. Modi of India, he almost of the sovereign nations on one point or the other, which is unbecoming of a superpower. It is not expected of a superpower. And this is why the president of Ukraine, in order to guard his respect, in order to guard the aspirations of emotions of his people to whom he is representing, in order to protect, safeguard, respect his national sovereignty, whether it is economic or it is territorial, he has to resist the move of the Trump and his Vice President, Mr. Vance, which he rightly did. And you know, this move of Zelensky has far-reaching impact on the international order, world order. Very next day, you have seen United Kingdom held a summit which was participated by the Ukrainian President, Mr. Zelensky. And many negotiations have been done. And it has been resolved that they will support unanimously to Ukraine. They will protect their sovereignty unanimously. And I'm sure that this move of the European countries will isolate United States from the world order. And these European nations, these are not less powerful. They have NATO. They are 50 crores. They are masters in high-end technology. I recollect you, Rafael of France. France deals with the high-end technology. They are not less powerful. If they are united, you can assess the power of these nations, and then where the United States of America will stand. So the resistance which Mr. Zelensky has given to the unbecoming conversation of Mr. Trump and his vice president, it has brought, and it was resisted by Mr. Zelensky. The resistance of Zelensky has brought a change in the world. international order, the world order, which has led to the unification of all the European nations. And they have resolved to aid the Ukraine and to protect its sovereignty of the people, and they have resolved to bring peace in Ukraine. Till it happens, they will continue to support the Ukraine and its people. This is the new change which I am assessing, which I am seeing on international level. And in this change, our own country, India, and its Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, has to identify its role. This is the time now. And I'm sure this unification of the European nations in favor of Ukraine will certainly, definitely isolate United States of America, Trump administration, because Trump is facing protest in his own country by the people on what has happened on that day of press conference with Mr. Zelenski. So I'm sure a good new world order will come up, which is need of the hour, because we are all fed up now of these offensives from here and from there. We cannot afford now to feed a few oligarchs, the capitalists, businessmen, who at the cost of a common man are not caring for their peace, their security, their safety. Their own children are safe, but children of the common man are not safe. I'm sure there would be a change, new change in the world order, which will definitely resist any move of the United States. Thank you very much.